So I would say the following really is everything. It makes it really, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier to go if you've come across a product they might like. Yeah. So the best person that I like to work with, irrespective of what kind of industry that they're in, I love somebody who is open to getting in front of the camera. I want people who want to or have slayed that fear of getting on camera, and losing it is part of the game, right? I was at the high level summit back in May, and there was somebody who now is doing, I think he's doing multiple 7, almost 8 figures. And he was like, yeah, well, I failed 14 times before I did this. So I was like, man, I'm only after 3 times. So just not quitting and then always pivoting and moving forward.
Okay, we have another great guest on today. Dom Povero is here to say hello. Say hello to our team and our people watching this. An exciting conversation we're just about to have on all the wonderful things around high level.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Matt.
So, Dom, you've basically built your own personal brand, and you've been in running your agency for a while, or let's just say your business for a while. How do you make money?
So for me, I make money through the web. No. My main source of profit right now is through service work and affiliate commissions for high level generated from YouTube. So really, everything that I have done, all of my leads I've generated organically have either come from YouTube or TikTok, some sort of video of one way or another.
And what's fascinating about that is that you've built a living. Listen to this user who's watching this, or listener who's listening to this. He's built a living just off of one thing, being himself. And yes, that's it. And so tell me a little bit about, we originally were chatting about the fact that, you've been expanded, and then you've come back. And so tell me about the origin story, just a few seconds, and then get into the expansion time, and now we're back to sort of maybe rebuilding, right?
Yes. So I know we were speaking a little bit before we hopped on. I'll go a little bit further back, go back to like 2012. 2012 to 2017, I was in the car business. So I sold cars. It was in the F&I office, and then got into the internet department. I put internet department in quotes because this was 2013 and it was not what it would be today. But that's kind of where I learned my sales and marketing skills, was basically high reps in the car business. I think I worked it out to like 5,000 car deals I was involved in. Left there in 2017 to start my own car rental business with an app called Hire Car, which was kind of like Turo, but their market was rideshare drivers rather than travelers, the way Turo does.
Right.
Tough market to get into. Your cars do 1,000 miles a week, and They like to bump into stuff. And insurance deductibles are high, and that's ultimately what sunk me. So I had a number of renters who would hit something, and I'd be on the hook for $2,500, and it would happen like twice a week towards the end. So
right.
I had to stick a fork in that business of January of 2020. Which,
I know where that was. We all know where that was.
Yeah. Well, COVID wasn't even really a thing at that time. I was just like, man, I got to figure out the next move. Then March 2020, COVID happens, and I go, what do I do? Right. I got a 1-year-old at home. My wife's job doesn't cover us all. So I hopped on TikTok like the rest of the country, started creating sales and marketing type content. And concurrently with the rental car business, I was kind of messing around with affiliate marketing. Like, you can promote brands online, do whatever. And as people started to follow me on TikTok, learning my sales and marketing stuff I learned in the car business, I started basically generating this traffic to send it other places. And I was like, man, this kind of works if I publish video. So I started creating courses, doing affiliate stuff with video content. And then come 2022, I came to launch another course with Amazon Influencer. And right before launch, the system we were on was not working.
Wow.
Yeah, everything broke. It was a 2.0, the infamous 2.0. I don't know if we can name them or not.
What, ClickFunnels?
What? Yes, ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels 2.0 wasn't working in 2022. So I built my entire program myself in a day on high level, and I've never gone back. That program that we launched was around Amazon Influencer. We did almost $1 million in about 1.5 years. And then that offer kind of died and fatigued, as a lot of them do.
Right.
I integrated high level SaaS into that offer. But a lot of our customers were no longer in business by the time it came to renew the annual program. So that cratered. This is 2024 now. And yeah, from there, I've just been rebuilding here, providing high level service work through YouTube. I have the personal brand. I've got the following, which can never really be taken away, the list. And I'm just telling the story.
It's interesting. So I think this is a good lesson. So talk to me about the following, because I think a lot of people are trying to build their own following, and it's a matter of taste to some degree on what you want to put out to the world, right? I mean, some people will go deep into their personal side of the business. They'll expose their numbers and talk about like their profitability. And there's some people who are not saying anything about their business and just talk about technical. But you seem to have built a little crowd who you've made a living out of it, which is interesting, right? So I think for anybody watching this is that, you've built enough audience that you can now go back to your audience and say, hey, I've got XYZ product or service, or what it might be is more of I would say, you've got a community of people who are willing to listen. And again, the community in this particular case isn't like a school community or a high-level community or a circle community. It's a community of people that are just following you in your pursuits, whether it's YouTube or I'm sure your social channels. Talk to me a little bit about that, about how important that is and what that represents to you and what kind of your following, how it was built.
Yeah. So I would say the following really is everything, but not so much the follower counts. Like you watch your YouTube subscribers, you see your TikTok followers, right? They can go away, as we saw with TikTok a couple weeks back. Really, it was getting those people from video onto an email list and then staying in touch via the email list, because again, the video account can go away and then they go, where can we find you? It's real easy. I could just send an email to a list that goes, hey, by the way, I'm here. And let's start migrating the audience of people. But that has been having that following and that audience that kind of goes with you wherever is it makes it really, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier to go if you've come across a product they might like, or you launch something your own, you listen to your audience and they say, hey, we're struggling with this. It makes the what do they want easier, because they just kind of tell you.
Did that come from the the Amazon structure that you had built out?
What, the audience?
Yes.
No. So the audience actually came from general sales and marketing content. So I was talking about different ways to structure copy of emails I learned in the car business, different sales techniques from the car business. And then I kind of adapted those over to here's how you do it one to many through video, what I'm learning. And now that's a lot of people I did a lot for the Amazon stuff, Amazon influencer stuff, because that was such a simple, easy beginner business model.
Correct. That in 2022, that was like the business.
Yes.
And people were very much engaged for a lot of reasons, right? Because obviously the whole model of retail to consumer changed because of COVID. So there was a huge opportunity to jump into Amazon distribution and shipping and FBA. But I think at the end of the day, that model is now overrun with, let's just say, copycats of copycats of copycats. So it's sort of now the new considered FBA model, or if you want to say that there's new models that replicate some of the opportunities where there's scaling and simple scaling in there, are sort of the models that let's say we're penetrating, but we are doing this, which is, all the social channels now are turning into QVCs to some degree. I think they are.
Social selling on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you watch what's happening in China, and you see or Asian countries, not just China, but if you look at what's going to happen to us, it's going to replicate what's going on over there, which is that they're just faster to adopt because they sort of have a different culture strategy. But the models have all started to work in favor of where do people spend time in their day, and they're not walking through a mall. They are walking through TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And as the platforms adapt to taking money for shopping, which they all will do. And TikTok is now, sort of focusing itself into this model for the US. That opportunity is now resurrecting itself, right? It's now becoming more interesting. And although the conversation we're talking about is not about that from a perspective of like where to make, let's say, revenue, because maybe not a lot of people will have that. But when you were doing the stuff for Amazon and walking back into your story, were you working on affiliate structure, or were you working on just a product that you would put together?
No, so it was affiliate structure. So I wasn't private labeling, and I didn't actually,
Right.
I had the products in hand because a lot of it was just stuff that was already laying around my house.
Right.
So for anyone watching who people have seen this, but the amount of people who don't realize what it is. So that
Right.
if you're on Amazon and you see how in the product listing it says like 3 or 4 videos, and it seems like regular people making videos.
Yeah.
That is what I was doing, and that's what I was showing other people to do. So you're not, and it's on Amazon's website, not on your social media. So you're taking advantage of Amazon's ad spend. There are billions of dollars in ad spend to put views on your videos. And at that point, sales are pretty much guaranteed. But
Right.
like you were saying, it's copycats of copycats. And there were a lot of people who would steal other influencers' videos and post them as their own, and it was not policed. And there
Oh,
were
of course.
people who would go into the store blatantly against Amazon's terms of service. It was not policed. So it really just got
Right.
nasty in terms of they
Right.
didn't clean up, and it was, the people who were making the most were the people who were breaking the rules and not getting enforced.
Right. Right. And I understand. I mean, mechanically, I understand what was going on, but that, again, it's almost like ancient history because this model's not even viable.
Yeah.
But today, now you've got opportunities to do what you're doing, which is you're helping other people make, let's just say, better decisions on structure and strategy. And of course, we all play in the go high level world quite a bit. And whether you're doing modeling for B2B or B2C or, any of those, let's just call them structures that need to be supported. I know that you're helping people build those out. And you've gotten to a certain point where you hit my radar screen because I thought your material was fantastic. And I'm like, wow, he's, average Joe, like just explaining it. And there's no, it's not pitchy and it's great. Can you tell me a little bit about why you think you're being so successful? Why the audience is administering, let's just say, activity to it? Because your view counts are great. I mean, it's like you figured out a niche for yourself, and I think that's because you're bringing along the audience that you already participated in, which is incredibly important, right? I'm sure there's some sequences there that are built into your email marketing to let people know, hey, I've got new material that, So tell me a little bit about what's getting you to be successful.
So it's really funny that you used the term average Joe when you were describing me, because that has been a recurring theme, and everyone who gets attracted to my content, they're like, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure everyone means it as a compliment, but it's weird because people are like, well, I did it because you're just like the most average normal dude that does this. So I'm not hypey. I've become really cynical doing this for like 5 years now, which is like 500 in internet marketing years. And you can really see through the BS. And you're like, man, everybody else has to see that. So I'll just give it to you without it. Like, this is how it really works. This is where it is. Just basically being not so much blunt, but without, just matter of fact and to the point. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to me. I'll tell people the ups, I'll tell people the downs, and just this is how it works, and this is how it worked for me. If you want to try it, great. There's not really a pitch of this is the only one best way to do it. I think that's what draws people to me.
And I think that's why I liked your approach. And I thought it was interesting that we all kind of live in the same subsystem, which is kind of weird, meaning that we see what we see because of our algorithmic clicking of buttons and watching certain things. So we tend to get a lot of the same general people falling into our feeds, right? Which are all pitchers, which are all people with, different categories of level of millions of dollars that they've made that you can make too, right?
Yes.
So it's refreshing to see somebody who's a little bit less involved in that structure. But why do you think beyond the average Joe that you've been able to cavalcade yourself into this model of solving for X for a lot of people? Is it your sequence strategy that you've been able to do? Is it something mechanically that's happening in the background to kind of get your structure and the algorithm to point to you? Can you notice anything that's maybe substantial that somebody may be missing out?
Yeah. So in terms of like a technical perspective, it's funny. I just did a talk on this past weekend. But when it comes to YouTube, and that's what I've been doing it mostly now. But I've seen it also on short form platforms like TikTok. When it comes to video feeds, everybody wants to get one video to pop off, right? They want to get as many views as they can on that one video, but that's not necessarily where it's about. So what I find is a lot of my sales come from the second and the third video that somebody watches of me. So I dug into my YouTube analytics and the browse feature, right? So we want to make our video, especially if it's on YouTube, head on the browse page, which is where most of the traffic and most of the views come from. Contrary to popular belief, it is not SEO, right? SEO is a backseat secondary consideration because you can get 3 times the views if you hit the homepage.
Sure.
But inside that video, after somebody clicks on that first video, you want to have somebody watch a second video of yours. So you can either use that little sidebar up at the top, use the end screen, use a link in the description, whatever it is, get somebody to watch a second video of yours. Because I've noticed that my watch time increases by almost 3 minutes on the second video than the first, right? And you go through your analytics and the suggested and the end cards. And up next are the 3 things that are almost 3 minutes higher than my homepage views. At that point, if you can get someone to watch 2, you will start dominating their feed and they'll just see you and you and you. And if you have well laid out content, like I tend to put everything into systems and step by step. I think that's what a lot of people have told me. I attract a lot of engineers. They're like, the way you break stuff down just speaks to me. So it's very like, follow this and you'll get this result. And that type of content will just then because people got comfortable with me, they're willing to click the link and go buy and eventually swipe their credit card.
Right. And I think there's the element of IKEA is the best way I could put it. Like if you buy from IKEA, you know what you're getting into. You're going to get into a big step design. It's like literally you walk into a maze and you're forced to purchase something that you know is going to come home and you're going to have to put it together. But you kind of realize, well, it's not that bad. It's like it's step-by-step instructions. So, and I think a lot of the unfortunate thing about this business is that it is complex.
Yes.
And it's not very well known, especially, I mean, I've built an agency to multiple millions and, even made the Inc. 5000, but there's so much complexity in that design. But on the surface layer to a client, they're just like, well, why can't you just make it work? And I think the reality is that we're getting there, by the way, with AI. But there's so much to be said about plumbing or infrastructure of how we build things that to the normal human being looks very simple. But in reality, there's a lot of complex sequences that need to happen and not screw up in order for things to happen, especially with Go High Level. And again, we talk to a lot of new agencies that are coming in that are using us, because they're looking for some solutions for even white label stuff. And they don't really even understand the basics because there's not enough headroom for most people to do the operation flow. And I don't mean this because they can't. It's because they're not willing to do it. So I think that's where a lot of the things break, is because people just try and set stuff up without really thinking through all the process steps. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So it's funny as you bring that up. So high level, when you start a blank high level account, right? It is unlike most other kind of marketing platforms out there. And the fact that high level gives you raw inputs and raw outputs. And for someone to go and build that from scratch, they have to understand how the sales process flows and when and how data will flow between different parts of the apparatus. So I think a lot of people aren't used to that because a lot of programs will say they kind of take the Apple approach where it's like, this is what's going to happen. Just have a couple customizations whereas high level takes that kind of PC Android approach where it's, we've unlocked every setting, go wild. It's a blank canvas. And yeah, so I've found that because a lot of people I'll have inside of a communities and some of the courses that I've had, I show people how to think in terms of the inputs and the outputs. And if you can map everything out on a piece of paper, it'll make things a lot easier once you go in and start clicking. Because I see a lot of people that go in, they just start clicking and they don't know what they want to build yet. And I'm like, you're going to get lost. Things are going to break. And it sounds really archaic, especially in the world of AI, which I'm coming around on. I was a huge AI resistor for the longest time when it was not as good. But drawing something out either on a whiteboard or a piece of paper and then working from that makes the building of the automations and working inside the high level environment a lot easier.
Yeah, and a lot of us are coming to the conclusion that the models for SaaS are changing quite a bit over the last actually couple of months because of AI agents that are coming in to be able to support certain functionality vertically into these, let's just call it horizontal solutions that we bring into a client. I had a question for you that relates back to something you said about email. And you built a pretty substantial list, I would think, at this point over the course of the last couple of years because of your work. And if you've built $1 million worth of revenue out of an affiliate program with Amazon, you've had to have gotten a lot of emails from that to start with. And then now you've done a bunch of really good work on providing high quality, non-hypey content into YouTube. So I'm assuming you're collecting emails. What does the email database look like for you now? And how does that impact the business for you when you start to go and say, hey, I'm going to have a product that you might want to buy? And what type of response rate are you getting from your base?
So yeah, so when it comes to the email list, my clean list right now, like my A list is probably somewhere around 3,000 people. My dirty list
Fantastic.
is 25 to 30,000 people. A lot of them have not opened emails in a while, so I generally just don't email them anymore, but I can't bring myself to delete them. So generally when I'll go in and when I come up with an offer, I have my list segmented. So that is one thing I'm really, really big on to maintain high open and high response rates is segmentation, because people love seeing relevant messages. They don't want general messages. So I kind of having affiliate, sales, marketing, Amazon, high level, like it all kind of, if I have something that's kind of a general business opportunity, something that's kind of a general business market, I'll send it to everybody. But if it is something that is high level specific, I'll only send it to those high level people who are there. And then generally I'll get, anywhere between 30 to 40% open rates on my emails. And I want to get at least 10% of people who open. At least 5% of people who open to click, but I'm hoping for 10% of people who open to click, whatever offer that it is.
Right. So I guess what I was trying to get at was that with a small list, you can pretty much have a living.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I support a family of 4 on a single income in 2025. Like that's on what I'm doing. That's
that's what I was saying. I think it's fantastic. And this is the point that I'm saying to people: with a list of 3,000 people on an email list that are willing to participate in your world, in you, right? Because it's interesting that you've changed to a personal brand as opposed to a company brand, which is, I know that there's some reasons we can chat about with that. But I'm curious on that list of 3,000 people. And you say you're doing some service work, you're doing some sort of mixed of different. What's your percentage of product sales slash, let's just say recurring versus services? Maybe give me a breakdown of your mix of product portfolio of activity that's going on a monthly basis.
Got it. Yeah. So the mix of what's going on, I'll generally do one. I was averaging last month. I haven't had one, but I was generating about one full service build a month, which for me, without a team of VAs doing it myself, that's fine. It's kind of a comfortable pace because I do have to put out the content and service the couple high level SaaS users that I still have. So I was doing about one of those a month, and then I want to say half to 3/4 of my income is basically recurring or residual from stuff that I've done in the past, which has been a huge, huge blessing. People who are on
About
subscriptions,
affiliate stuff, you mean?
affiliate stuff, and then I've also got some people on my SaaS still that has, it's taken it's contracted a lot, but it's still there. There are people who are still
Right.
attracted to me, and they're still paying.
Sure. There's lifetime value type clients that are there because they've gone through, let's just say, an experience with you, or they positively had an emotional connection. Okay, so let's talk about that real quickly. The SaaS business itself, what do you think today? Where do you think the opportunity lies for people who are interested in SaaS related topics? Where should they think to put their efforts towards?
I would put their efforts towards home services.
Okay.
That tends to be, I was initially against that because I was like, it's too saturated. There's too many people doing it. And I kind of went to pursue alternative avenues, and it's way harder because I think I went after photographers for a bit. And then I went after real estate people, and it was harder. It was harder to quantify results for someone who's already plugged into social media versus someone who's like a home service business who's using a website from 2005 and a phone number.
Right.
It's a lot easier to, my Amazon device is going off. It's a lot easier to communicate value to something like that than someone who is already plugged into kind of the digital world.
Correct. Meaning taking someone from 1 to 10 as opposed to taking someone from 9 to 10.
Yes.
Yeah, I understood. Very much appropriate for the business in the home services side, because I don't think people realize how many people there are in that space that still have never really done anything. And even surprisingly, when you move it up a little bit, even into the people who may be doing 7 figures in that home services business on a consistent basis, have got limited capabilities.
Yeah. I mean, I was at my bagel shop this morning, and there's probably 25 business cards here. And I was like, I'm just going to go and start reaching out to them.
That's fantastic.
Because you can tell some people would put more into marketing because they've got bigger pamphlets, but the simple business cards are for, we can come in and put a system in place for you.
I'd love to understand what did you just pick up a stack of business cards that were in their little basket or something?
Yeah, no, no, they didn't put them in the basket. There was on the counter. It said, "Put your business card here, advertise for free." It was like a printed out sign, and then there was a whole. It was probably 4 feet of counter that had everyone's business cards in little stacks and piles, and I grabbed one of each. That was there.
Well, if you get something from this podcast, go to find any local bagel store and suggest to them that they should set up the same counter so that they can have businesses come in and engage with the proprietary of the owner, and maybe you could be the one who manages the activity for that. Fantastic. I love the story about you now working through what I would consider almost like a one-man show. As you said, you don't really have anybody helping you, or you maybe have some limited VAs or something like that.
I have a video editor. That's it.
Yeah. So one video editor and yourself, and you're making a substantial earning, a north of 6-figure earnings. And I think the question I have is, when we look at the business itself, where do you see, beyond the SaaS of going to home services guys, where do you think there's another opportunity? There are other opportunities beyond this. And now I know you have products that we'll talk about in a few minutes that we want to highlight, but where else do you see other opportunity besides just the SaaS into the home services guys?
SaaS and home services guys, I think the big opportunity, I mean, I hate to sound like everybody else, but really AI is getting to the point where now even me was a huge AI skeptic. It's getting to the point where it's hard for me to say, Why do I need that? A human can do it better. And it shouldn't be scary. I'm actually going to start to embrace it because what I've found out, I just got my Chat GPT Plus. I finally found it worthy of the $20. Um, but inputting things like getting, the web chat, the voice AI, the scheduling, really just a matter of replacing a human to answer that phone for SaaS is going to be there. And even just the ability to comb through data and find patterns and summarize things. It's getting really good at that now. It doesn't hallucinate as much as it did 2 years ago.
Well, right. And I think it's also the ways that things are being adapted towards by the consumers or by the businesses. They're willing to look at this now, right? Because it's been pounded into them now for a year and a half that you have to do AI. And just like us as business owners who want to make the right decisions, we're afraid of new things. And so we won't take the edge cases unless someone dives into the pool first. But with some convincing, right, and maybe some thought process, say, hey, just try it. It's interesting. And I had this conversation yesterday with somebody. I said, you can say no, but what happens when everybody else around you just basically is already doing this? Is that when you say yes? Oh, yeah, of course. But if everybody else is, well, what about you being the first one in and taking advantage of it and taking advantage of the edge? And I think that's something people don't realize is that there is an edge case here, especially because there's things that are happening that you don't know that are being implemented by a lot of higher level companies that have already, tested this, kick tested it. They're doing it because of cost savings. They're doing it because they're eliminating people, and they're doing it because they've also been able to synchronize this stuff within other system structures, which is really why Go High Level is interesting to a lot of people when they start to use it with all of the activity that creates what I would consider the optimization of a business chain. And we're all starting to understand the value of sequences and automations and all of that. But those are sort of rudimentary to once you start to use operative AI, where the things that are doing in the background by humans right now are being done by the AI agent. And that's coming fast because the technology is allowing the agents, and I don't mean it in the fact that these agents are people, but these vertically driven agents, meaning that they have specific tasks that they do, are starting to be able to manipulate an entire row of activity. So they're making decisions, and that's what this is coming down to: making decisions based off of logic. And we could get into it in a deeper span, but I think you've pointed it out that AI is coming, and a lot of people who are holding off because they just don't want to interrupt people's thought patterns. It's going to be in 2025 probably the biggest lever to pull.
Yes.
And I think that people need to rationalize the value of it by taking their own use case and saying, this is what I'd like to have done, and starting to edge into it, right? Last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I appreciate your time, Dom. You've got product sets that now you're getting into the market. Who do you feel who's your best customer to work with? Who do you prefer to work with, and who can learn the most from you, and who do you want to speak to with the next product that you have coming out?
Yeah. So the best person that I like to work with, irrespective of what kind of industry that they're in, I love somebody who is open to getting in front of the camera, or is someone who wants to overcome the fear of getting in front of the camera. Cause that was something people watch me now and they go, you're a natural. And
Right.
that couldn't be further from the truth, right? Pre 2020, I was the person who walked away from the camera when it came into family functions. I was like, I do not want to be even photographed. Now I make my living on the camera. So I want people who want to or have slayed that fear of getting on camera, because it will open up so many business doors, networking doors, and people who will have kind of that DIY mindset. I'm all for That's actually one of the things I'm working on is trying to outsource and bring on some help to help take some of the operational load off of me, but people who want to at least understand what they are delegating. So that's the type of person that I love to work with. There are people who are like, I don't even know how to log in and I just do this like that. You have to at least understand so you can keep the person you delegated to accountable, like at least at a basic level. And then, yeah, again, people who are willing to do kind of the boring work, service work, and everybody, at least in the content YouTube world, everybody wants to skip over the work and go right to the passive stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of active work you have to do before you can take your foot off the gas.
Right. And
So,
with that being said, do you have something that you'd like to share with the audience or with the listener or the watcher that could potentially take them to the next stage of working with you?
yeah. So if you wanted to work with me, I've actually been the steady Eddie kind of income stream that's allowed me to keep supporting a family of four has been high level service work, and selling service work to other agencies. And I actually just put together the GHL Service Pro roadmap, which will show you how to, one, if you're learning high level, how to really understand high level, and then how to attract and find higher ticket build clients to go. So it's donpovero.com/roadmap. That'll get you over there. It's free.
Fantastic.
Go grab it.
So we talked about the $1 million that you made in Amazon. We mentioned the email list and how important that was to build and how it's actually supporting you. We talked about the complexity within high level, even though it seems easy on the outside, a lot of people get stuck in that hopefully you would be the breadwinner for them to help them get through the knots of this. Then obviously the segmentation of playing this game of who to send right material to get them to convert, and then AI as the new opportunity. Is there anything I should have asked you that, or something that we didn't bring up that maybe someone might want to know, or maybe some motivational structure that you've used to help people with their own businesses?
I would also say to anybody here, I mean, kind of my biggest theme for me especially over the past probably 3 to 5 years, I've seen a number of boom and bust cycles, and to know that is normal. There was a couple of people I met at the conference who were like, man, I tried and I failed. I got there, and I lost it, and losing it is part of the game, right? I was at the high level summit back in May, and there was somebody who now is doing, I think he's doing multiple 7, almost 8 figures. And he was like, yeah, well, I failed 14 times before I did this. So I was like, man, I'm only after 3 times. So just not quitting and then always pivoting and moving forward. And if you are a content creator, bringing the authenticity and letting people kind of behind the curtain will inspire others to stick with it. I mean, it's ups and downs are part of the game for anyone here who might be starting out. And eventually, again, it'll click.
Awesome. Don, thanks for your time today. I'm excited to see your journey continue, and we'll be right there with you.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.